was cooler, I was calmer. I was able to understand things. I was able to figure things out much easier. You got muddy water, and when the water stills, all the mud just drops to the bottom, and there's this pure, you can see through everything.
It's like trying to explain to someone that's never been to sleep before. If 1 minute you're asleep, next minute you're not.
You know, when you're a kid and I go upstairs to meditate, I was just hiding from you. That's really what I was doing. Yeah, this meditation's great, baby. You sometimes don't notice how fit you're getting when you go to the gym regularly. But if you don't go for a month and then somebody sends you up 7 flights of stairs, you suddenly realise where you were. If you find losing difficult, then you're moving out of the centre. And it means to be rather than to seem. And I really love that. Young and old, and just chilling.
Father and son back for more. I thought it'd be great today, because you've got so much experience with meditation, to have a little chat about your experience, really, and dive into some of the questions and considerations that people might have when they're just starting out, or if they've been doing it for a little while and they're starting to have doubts or whatever may come up. Because you've been meditating now, I think you started probably around the time that I was born. Must have been, from your experiential perspective. What, if anything, has changed since you first started off? If you cast your mind back 30 years to when you were first starting out, how
Do
how's
you mean
it
about the
changed?
process of meditation, or how I
Yeah,
feel?
so how you feel and how the process is experienced by you now in comparison to the beginning.
Well, when I first started, I was meditating just to try out meditation, like most people start, I think. You know, I didn't have any end game, um, which is apparently what you're supposed not to have anyway. So I was just meditating to try and get a bit of control of myself, you know, and to experience what the inside was like. That was great. And then I got deeper and deeper into it, and I found that I could fairly easily meditate a couple of times a day, or get up to the stage where I could meditate a couple of times a day for 30 or 40 minutes. And then I started pushing that a little bit as well. And what I really loved is you go into this meditation and you would just enter a different state in yourself. It's not a highfalutin thing. I just knew when I came out, I was cooler, I was calmer, I was much more relaxed, and everything else picked up as well. I was able to understand things. I was able to figure things out much easier, things that
Mhm.
I couldn't grasp before. And I'm not talking about spiritual things. I'm talking about normal things, work things, and just situations and relationships and things like that. The movement, I suppose, of stilling the mind and letting go of everything brought through a slightly, you know, an ever more increasing feeling of a bit more knowledge and a bit more understanding. Meditation itself became easier because I was able to more quickly still my mind down and get into the place where meditation is taking place. You know, where the dhyana is actually happening,
Mhm.
and uh, and that, like, as I'm sure you know, I know you know, and a lot of your students will know, there are lots of different things that happen when you start to go into that room, when you go into that room inside yourself and slowly expand, gently start to expand a little bit further. Um, but it's all, I think it's different for everybody. That's the one thing. There
Mhm.
are similarities for everybody, but it is different for everybody because it is your particular room, and
Yeah.
things take place in your room that are pertinent to you. And the beauty of it, I mean, that I love and it's so true, that phrase about, you know, you got muddy water, and when the water stills, all the mud just drops to the bottom, and there's this pure, you can see through everything, and that's what it feels like a little bit. That you can see to the source of problems, and you're not so emotionally involved in those problems either, because the things that are gripping into you can't grip into you because you're not thinking about them. Um, and then you start to go into the more spiritual stuff where you start to experience your true self a little bit, and find this expansion changes completely. You hit this stillness, and you hit this emptiness, and you hit this vastness, and you dwell in there, and it feels more like home than this does sometimes. You know, it feels
Mm.
more real than this does. So that's, you know, that's many months and years of what happens as you deepen into meditation, precede down to a few words. But you can how else do you do it? I can't draw it.
No, exactly.
What
It
about
is. It's
yourself?
like I sometimes think that it's like trying to explain to someone that's never been to sleep before. If there was a human being that had never been to sleep, trying to explain the process of falling asleep,
Yes.
you sort of like you get into this blurred line area of like 1 minute you're asleep, next minute you're not, and you set the environment and you set the scene and you go in with this, you know, vague intention of like I'm going to sleep now. And the next thing you wake up and you're like, there was a period there where I didn't actually do a lot. It just happened. And meditation, it's not exactly like that, but I think it's the closest thing that I can think of, the
Yeah.
closest way I could think of putting it, that meditation, that subtle shift that takes place, it just happens. I think people talk about it being a lot of sort of spiritual things, and you can apply this idea to meditation as well, I think, is the idea of a happy accident, that you set the environment up, you do the work, you turn up, you aspire to evolve, but the shifts that take place, things that come your way, just happen by themselves. They tend
Yeah, they
to.
do. They do. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And it's like you're saying there, you put all the things in place and you set everything up and you go into it and it's like falling asleep. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can't quite get there. And other times you've gone like that. Yeah, that's a nice little précis of it. At the end of the day, the funny thing is it doesn't really matter what happens to me or happens to you in meditation. It's what happens to the person who's doing the meditation. It's their journey, their thing, and they may go much quicker than I did to that point. They may take a little bit longer. It's your journey, and you what you get though day to day are the benefits of that. You are calmer. You are able to figure things out much easier. Your intuition is much higher. All of us, you can sometimes when you're meditating, I find that I know immediately about other people sometimes. And that sounds really strange, but I do. I know whether to, I just know to avoid or to steer, or to be okay with them because your intuition grows. Your intuition makes it sound like I want to change that actually. It's not intuition. Your knowing changes. You have an
Mm.
understanding, a knowing of things. I remember walking through my old hometown years after I'd left it, and I was just walking towards the corner of a road, and I knew when I turned that corner, a girl that I used to date was going to be there, and she was. It was bizarre, but she was. That little knowing starts to grow, and you start to know,
Mm.
you know, you start to see through things that you would be guessing about before a little bit. But that's all, they're all edges of it. They're the small stuff
They're
around.
little
Yeah,
sprinkles that
yeah,
get placed in there, aren't they?
yeah,
What do you think was the thing that kept you going at the start? Because I think a lot of people, they start this journey of meditation and it's so unclear as to how things should or will unfold. And a lot of people naturally are put off by that, or they find it very challenging to keep moving forward when maybe nothing is taking place in terms of they don't particularly experience much initially, and they're just sitting down. Maybe they feel a bit more relaxed. But for you personally, when you started, and this may be the relationship with our teacher that you had, what was it, do you think, that kept you going and enabled you to overcome those types of doubts?
what started me going was a very good friend of mine had a serious bowel condition called colitis, and we were good pals, and I liked him a lot. And I didn't know anything about this condition until I went round his house one day, and he'd just eaten a meal, and then he ran upstairs, and he was upstairs for about half an hour on the toilet, and his wife said, he's got this condition, and I realised how it was hampering him, bringing him down and stopping him. And a friend of his at work knew Deus. Not as we know him, but he knew him as a person and a stand-up guy, but he also knew that he did some Eastern practices. And he just said to this friend of mine, go and see him. He might be able to help you. Maybe he's got a different way of approaching it because all he was being given was steroids, made him put a bit of weight on, and it wasn't the route he wanted to go down. And he just saw the rest of his life as having to take steroids to control this condition. So he started training he went around to see Deus, and Deus diagnosed him with meditation and Tai Chi. And he started teaching him meditation. He started him doing his Tai Chi form, and within a few weeks, I saw this friend of mine who had been really struggling, blossoming, and he was raving about it. He was saying, "This is fantastic. Can't believe how when I do the Tai Chi, my colitis goes. When I meditate and do the Tai Chi, it all goes." And he said, "You'd love this, Pete. You'd love all of this." So I saw for a couple of months the effects of this on him. And to be fair, I wanted some of that. I wanted some of that. I want, wow, this is brilliant. I want, and I suppose a part of me maybe has always been a little bit interested in it without actually doing anything about it. The whole Eastern philosophy and, totally different to the Western. I've always had a little bit of that through the martial arts. I had a little bit of it without anything substantial. Who, that started me on it. I never went into it expecting anything. Just I'd seen what it had done for my friend, and I suppose I was thinking, what could it do for me? So I started. And I would also had an interest in Tai Chi, so I did the Tai Chi as well, and subsequently taught that for many years. And so the two were going hand in hand for me, the Tai Chi and the meditation. And I just found that it gave me a bit of me time. It wasn't always easy. I did struggle with it. I remember talking to that friend and saying, I haven't meditated this week, and him saying to me, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm coming home." I said, "After work, and I think about going to meditation, but I go and get a bottle of bud out of the fridge instead." And he said, "Well, let's just leave that fridge closed, shall we? It's simple, and have the bud afterwards." And funnily enough, I never wanted the bud afterwards. If I could get through the front door, put my stuff down, get changed, and not open the fridge door, I could meditate. So you start to learn the things that get in the way of your meditation that way.
Mm,
See them, isolate them, and then deal with them, you know.
mhm,
But at the start for me, it was an interest, and I'd seen what had happened to him. So, but once I started to be able to sit down for maybe 20, 25 minutes, then I could see things starting to happen. And then it became, okay, now I want to know a bit more about this. And it became a much less of a chore to sit down and meditate. And I could see the benefits of it, and I could see the benefits of it afterwards. But it wasn't always, I wasn't, it was day one and I'm meditating all the while. It wasn't like that. Sometimes I wouldn't meditate for a couple of weeks, and then I'd notice the difference in myself, really notice
mm,
the difference. And then I'd make myself go back and do it again. And and then I started taking regular lessons with Deus to facilitate that, to keep that momentum going, and
mhm.
that really did get the momentum going as well. So that was it for me. How about yourself?
Yeah.
Hey, just a quick one. About a year and a half ago now, I decided to create an online meditation and spiritual school. And since then, the school has grown and grown to the point where we're at now with over 600 members from people all around the world, literally every corner of the world. And it's become this hub of earnest spiritual seekers that just want to learn more about meditation and grow spiritually, from complete beginners, people who have never meditated before, all the way up to people who have been on the path for like 20, 30 years. It's just this treasure trove of knowledge. And everything that I've learned over the last 25 years, I've unraveled into this school. So you've got direct access to information that you might be pulling from lots of different sources, or you'd have to spend years and years looking for. But in the school, it's all there for you, ready to just use and implement into your life. So if you're interested in learning more about meditation and growing spiritually, feel free to check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. I also wanted to let you know that my dad has recently released a book. It's called The Quiet Labor, a workbook for spiritual progress. And as the name suggests, it is literally a workbook for spiritual progress. It's got so much knowledge and information in there from my dad's 30 years of practice. It's an amazing, amazing tool. So feel free to check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below as well. But thank you as always, and let's get straight back to the episode.
I honestly don't know. I think the thing that kept me going was I always, and this is unique to the situation, but I always just had complete trust and belief and faith in Deus. And so when he explained to me the value of meditation, I just did it. Like you, that doesn't mean that it was completely consistent immediately. There were many times where I was on and off and things like that, but I always had a knowing that I did always probably, as you were mentioning about having an interest in Eastern philosophy, I think I always had just a knowing, simple knowing that it was beneficial. I felt it was just of value. But I think it was complemented by seeing you having done it for so
Yeah,
long, and then also being under the guidance of Des and hearing his words about it. I just was then compelled to do it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think a lot of people have much more of a challenge because they're not quite as fortunate to have close people
yeah.
to them who are telling them, "Oh no, this is something that's
You
changed
know
me,
you know when you
benefited
were a
me."
kid and I go upstairs to meditate, I was just hiding from you. That's really what I was doing.
Sitting on your phone,
Yeah,
cigarette in your hand,
go down in a bit.
turning up the music.
Yeah, this meditation's great, baby, with a can of lager.
Lost the microphone.
Lost the microphone completely, yeah.
I think, honestly, I think having that space as well.
Oh god,
So
yeah, it did work.
for the viewers, Dad at some point or another had a meditation room basically dedicated to meditation. It was a small little room, but filled with pictures of different avatars, different teachers. It's a gorgeous, still is a gorgeous place to go. And
Yeah,
I would
full of
walk into
energy.
that room. I'd walk into that room and feel the divine. I didn't have those words at the time, but now I know it was what I was feeling. And I'd be getting blasted. I'd feel it everywhere. But the room was
Everybody
filled
feels it.
top to bottom. Pretty much every side is filled with a photo. So
Yeah.
you walk in there and it is immense, isn't it?
Yeah, it
The
is. It's
power of it.
it is an incredible place to meditate in. You don't
Mm.
need a place like that, you can meditate anywhere. For me, I wanted something definite and a place of my own, and it has an enormously powerful feeling, but it also has that coolness. You know, you ever walk into a church and there's like a cool, I'm not talking because it's cold, because there's no heating. There's a kind of coolness in there that's
Mm.
pure and beautiful. And I think all I was going to say holy places, but I suppose in a way it is a holy place.
It is a
Um,
holy place,
yeah,
definitely.
I think all holy places have that. They have that particular energy, that particular vibration in there that you latch onto the minute you walk in. You notice it, and even if you don't know what it is, you do notice it.
Well, if you walk into Mother Mira's darshan before you go in, and you go into the room where there's all the books of her and incense and different things, all
We
with
feel it.
pictures of her, you feel it in there, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Massively.
Yeah. And funnily
And so
enough,
many people may have
when
experienced that.
you were in Puttapati at Sai Baba's place, when you when you put some videos up of your time there, I could feel it there as well. Look, just watching the
Mm.
video, I could feel the energy there.
Yeah.
So it's yeah,
I was incredible there.
yeah, I'll bet.
Every corner has got a enormous picture of Sai Baba. So everywhere you go, you're seeing photos, even in like the lunchtime hall in the ashram itself,
No,
all the way around.
they give off such energy anyway, don't they? Even if it's
Mm.
and that's his place, you know, it's full of his vibration, like Thalheim is with Mother Mira. You know, it's
Mhm.
incredibly powerful. The energy there, lovely, beautiful.
Yeah. So you would say that you were inspired by your friend, and then you
Initially,
started,
yeah.
and then you noticed things changing primarily in your in how you were within yourself in daily life, and that motivated you to keep going.
Do you know when you notice it the most? And I did say it earlier, but I'll re-say it in case anybody missed it. You notice it the most when you stop, and it's like I and you are liken martial meditation to going down the gym, and it's like that with the gym. You sometimes don't notice how fit you're getting when you go to the gym regularly. But if you don't go for a month and then somebody sends you up 7 flights of stairs, you suddenly realize where you were and where
Yeah.
you are now because you're not doing it. And
Mm.
and it's like that. That's when I noticed. It was when I stopped, and I might find myself out of my center really quickly in a situation, and I'll be thinking, I wouldn't have done that 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I know that's because of the meditation that I was
Mhm.
experiencing and going through. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think documenting what your journey is very helpful as well. So
Yeah,
I do encourage all of my students to start a journal, or just jot down a few words about their week to week, how they're feeling, how they responded to certain things, what they felt like in meditation, whether if it was really challenging, or if
it's
they
that
perceived it to
important.
be.
That
Yeah, it's huge.
it's that important. That's why I put some journal pages at the back of the book I just did, so that
Mm.
people can get started on that. Because if you get into the habit of doing that, when the difficult times come, when you don't see the point of it, you
And they
can
will.
And they will, yeah, they will, because the ego will kick up at some point, several points usually. You can go back then and read them, and it reminds you, because the ego's great at covering. You can have the most amazing things happen, and the ego will help you forget it in no time at all. Like when
Yeah.
when you've been having an amazing dream and you wake up and it's gone within 5 seconds and you can't remember it at all anymore. The
Yeah.
ego's great at covering over the good things that happen in meditation and the things that are happening to you and the changes that are taking place. So document it so that you can look back at it and not
Mm.
lose that sense of awe a little bit as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Because the changes that happen within you as well, they're so subtle to begin with. But a few months later or 6 months later or however long, you can look back and think, wow, I've actually changed a lot. I've changed this habit, that thing. I'm not so reactive. And they soon rack up, don't they, the result, the benefits.
They really do. And once you've got to a certain stage, you will, if you don't do it, you'll fall below. But to get back to that stage again, you can get there a lot quicker
Yeah.
once you've
The
been.
muscle memory almost.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like the gym, really. If you were able to do 200 kilograms once and you've not trained for a few months, the chance that you can get back to doing that a lot quicker than you would have done if you'd never done it before. So nothing's really lost in meditation, even if you do drop away from it for a while. When you come back, it's very quick for you to build back up to where you were.
And actually, often I notice the most depth in the meditation or sensations or feelings in meditation when I return after having missed it for a
It's
period.
like the parrot's being dangled in front of you again, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah. Did you forget this?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you forget how this felt?
I used to
Yeah.
notice with Deus when he used to give me a new meditation, when he'd wait until I got somewhere with a meditation, and then just as I was thinking, "Oh, this is great, this is great," and then he'd put me onto something completely different. But there would be some really powerful sensations at the start that made me feel
Mm.
like, "Oh, this is really something," and then they'd disappear.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah,
I love now looking back at some of the meditations that he got us doing, because I think we've done very similar ones over the course of time, and how it benefited you, but in a way that you just never have noticed initially. So an example is that I remember he gave me one of looking at the tip of my nose. I think you may have done this one.
yeah, I have.
Looking at the tip of your nose. And I remember doing it for about a week and thinking, well, this is just impossible. How can anyone actually meditate looking at the tip of their nose? Because my eyes were moving, my eyes were watering, loads of things were happening. And I was thinking, I can barely look at the tip of my nose, let alone get into a meditative state with it. So I remember emailing him and saying, is it all right if I look at a dot on the wall instead? It's a bit more manageable. And then I told you about it. And I said, oh, yeah, I've been looking at a dot on the wall now because they said that was all right, rather than looking at the tip of my nose. I was finding it a bit challenging. And you just said, that's just your ego. I remember you saying it. And I remember thinking, yeah, it probably is. And I went back to it, but I went back to it then with a completely different sort of mindset around it. And I just thought, I'm just going to accept it now. And then I started meditating on that point, doing it in the way that he had explained initially, but with a totally different state of mind. And it was easy.
Yeah.
And I remember being able to get into a meditative state then
It,
quite
it
easily.
it's funny, isn't it? Because when he changes your meditation, like I was saying, I was always usually when he changed my meditation, I was very comfortable in that meditation and it was very easy.
Mm.
And there was a part of me that didn't want to change because it means going back to the not so easy stage again. But actually, that's what you need. You need to be really focused and draw yourself together again, and make yourself
Yeah.
work a little bit harder than you did before.
Mm.
And
It's that gym analogy, isn't it?
yeah, it is exactly that. Yeah, yeah, exactly that. When you suddenly get on a different machine, and
Yeah. We try a different weight or
yeah,
something.
yeah, it's exactly that. I remember Jim used to have this meditation, and he was telling me about it. And the meditation was he would look at a candle and try and see the cross in the flame, and then he'd close his eyes and take the cross up to open his eyes and take the image of the cross in his mind up to Ajna Chakra, and I'd try and hold it there as long as he could, seeing this cross, and then he'd have to come down again to. I can't remember if it was in a flame now. I can't remember now if it was in the flame or if he just pictured the image of the cross and then took it up. I think it was in a flame. It was in a flame, definitely. And I remember thinking, because I was at the time I was doing some Vipassana, I was flying with it, and Jim was really struggling with this one. You know, he was like hating it. We didn't hate it, but it was like it was a really tough one to do and to get into
Mm.
a meditative straight state. And I remember thinking, that's great, then that's just great. And I used to tease him about it. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing this one tonight, mate. No problem, you know. And you know what happened, don't you? Of course, the next time my meditation changed, it changed to that bloody meditation, and it was a really difficult one for me at the time. It was difficult because I'd never done with an eyes looking up meditation up to Ajna Chakra, which I've done a few since then now. But at the time, it was, and it made my eyes ache the first few times I did it. But it was a really good meditation. It was a really good one. Yeah, quite profound. It became for me.
In what way?
Just once my eyes settled down, the sensations around the Ajna chakra and as I started to move into the meditative state, this whole halo thing here just became massive. And the stillness that once I could hold it there, the stillness of it was just remarkable, really remarkable. You put a lot of effort in to get there, and it was worth it. But it was a difficult climb.
Well, I remember, funny you should say that, because I remember when I first started teaching, this was probably like 4 or 5 years back. And I used to, because it was on a one-to-one basis, sometimes I'd ask Des, what do you think I should recommend this student does? And I remember with one particular student, he recommended that they looked at a blackboard, which is this is a meditation I ended up doing at one point, and visualize the number one being on the blackboard, and then observe that and look at it. And after a certain period of time, change it to a number two, and then continue and change it to a number three, and go through this process. And I remember asking him, why are you suggesting this particular one? And he basically said that because she needs to work harder. She's not working hard enough. She's not going in with enough effort. And I think that is not how many people perceive meditation to be, or consider that meditation should be, because naturally it's a practice that is a balance between effort and non-effort. You can't be gritting your teeth and trying hard in that sense, but there's other ways that you do need to actually put in effort. And in that particular situation, he said that that's what she needed. And I think there's been many meditations that probably both you and I have done similar to that one, where the value is in the effort part of the value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The hardest thing I think for people is to surrender to somebody who's telling you to do something that you're not getting on with.
Mm.
You're not, and you're probably not getting on with it because you're not, like you said earlier, that first meditation with the nose thing, you didn't feel it, did you? I did not feel that meditation. I didn't really want to do it. So blah, blah, blah. But when you change your mind and you do go to it and try to do it and know you can do it, the kind of the three columns we talk about, and when you're putting the focus in and you aspire to get to the end of it, and you're also saying
Yeah.
to yourself, I can do this. I can do this. It's
The
not,
virtues, isn't it?
yeah,
Determination,
yeah.
self-belief, all of those things.
Then, it's not just meditation that's happening. You're taking control of your own mind in a different way. It is meditation, but it's also, it's also conscious, kind of taking your mind off consciously as well. But to surrender to somebody and let them guide you is not something we're used to in the West. It's, well, we are and we aren't. That we are, if you want to have driving lessons, yeah, you surrender to a person who's teaching you driving. With stuff like this, people aren't ready to kind of let somebody else guide them and put 100% effort in on what somebody else is telling them sometimes. And
Interesting, isn't it?
it's a surrender, and it's a surrender that's a bit scary at times because you don't know what the end result of that surrender is going to be. You just have to trust them and go with it. And that's hard. It's hard to do.
It is really hard. It
Did
can
we get
be.
any questions?
Yeah, we've got
Stop all this rambling on about meditation, eh?
one of them actually is, could you share about the different meditation methods that you've practiced?
We've probably just talked a little bit about that, haven't we?
Yeah, what others have you done?
There's been a few eyes up at the Ajna chakra, trying to feel the Ajna chakra as you're looking up. So you're looking up there, you're breathing, you're focusing at this point and trying to feel it. That's a quite an unusual one. I mainly do Vipassana at the Dandian. but I also like Vipassana at the nostrils, feeling the breath coming in at the nostrils and going through. Pranayama, obviously, it's not necessarily a meditation, but it's a precursor to meditation, and that's a nice one to do before you actually start meditating. There's been ones where I've had to hold my hands up here, so you can see them. Hold my hands out in front of me. It's a standing one. Stand up, knees slightly bent, hands up here, and breathing in through the hands. So you imagine that there's gaps in your hands, and as you're breathing in, rather than breathing in through the nose, like with when we breathe in at Dandien, you're breathing in through your hands, which is one I did for a while, which was lovely actually. It felt a bit qigongy as well, but it was a meditation. And that was very nice. Yeah, just so many over the years.
Loads.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Different ones. And someone's asked if God's love is impersonal, is it really love?
My first question there would be, what makes them think it's impersonal? God is one, so you are God as well. Although unaware of it, you are God as well. So it's a kind of self love. No, it's there's different kinds of love as well. There's human love, which is probably all we really understand, and then there's divine love, which is the force that holds everything together. The force that everything you see around you now is held together with divine love. It's the biggest and most powerful force in the universe. When they say impersonal, I think that's more a human phrase than a divine phrase.
Yeah.
Divine love is all encompassing. So it's the divine knows everything about you because the divine is you. It knows what you're going through because it's you and it that's going through it. It's not it's very, very personal in the terms of a human being. It may not feel like it at times because we feel like we're on our own a lot of the time, and I get that, and I felt like that too, and everybody does from time to times, and it's scary. There's scary things that happen, but that love is there all the time. Everything around you would not be there if that love wasn't there.
Yeah. I think it's hard for us to comprehend, isn't it? Because personal, impersonal is assuming that there's differences and separations, and the divine love, as you say, is one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding the question, which I might be, it might be the question might be asking something that I'm not quite getting, which is fine. That's my fault then if I'm not understanding it.
I've taken it the same way that you have there. I
So we
think
could
that's
both
what
be
they
wrong.
mean. Yeah, probably. Yes. The next one here, let me see. There's one that says, how can someone know when working on the body through fitness is aligned with the spiritual path or when it is just becoming an ego pursuit? How can
Okay.
someone know?
Okay, so what they're saying is if you start to so you're moving into ego rather than just doing it as to balance your spirituality. Well, if you start moving out of the center, really, but it's the same. In my opinion, it's if you start moving out of the center. If you start to find that you're overtraining and hurting your body, that's moving out of the center. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be training hard. The body's meant to be worked. It's meant to be doing things, and it's a very good tool for doing things. So if you're trying to get your physicality up, work hard. But if you're it's the classic things of moving out of the center. If you start getting raggy, getting angry with people, getting upset because you're tired and you're worn out and you're taking it out on people around you, well then that's not spiritual. That's
Mm.
moving into ego straight away. So you've moved out of your center. You've physically you've pushed yourself so hard you moved out of your center. So surrender to that, drop the effort a little bit, maybe work smarter, and pull yourself back in. That's what you're looking. You're looking for anything that you would normally look for as you move out of your center. Blaming, any over the top emotions. If you're getting sad, cross, hyperly happy, way over the top. If you become ridiculously competitive, that if you become ridiculously competitive, yeah. If you find losing difficult, then you're moving out of the center. Yeah, there's that old wonderful in the If poem. It says, that wonderful poem where he kind of says you should meet victory and loss with the same kind of mindset. If you win, great. If you lose, great. I enjoyed it. I had a nice time doing it. So, but if you're suddenly finding yourself ridiculously competitive and and it hurts you losing, then all of these things are you sliding out of the center. All of these things are you taking your physical training or your physical training into realms that are suddenly moving into ego rather than staying in the right place. I would say. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this because you're probably a better person to ask on this than me.
I know I like a lot of that. I think there's that question alone. I think you could dissect into and look at it from so many different angles. It's a really good question. I think there's a few things. I think when you become obsessed over your physical body, from a spiritual point of view, we we've got this body that we need to look after and have in balance and harmony. But when we become overly attached to it, and you're constantly looking in the mirror every day, and you're becoming very strongly attached to the idea that this is yours, this is me, that I need to keep this nice and strong, and you fall into identification with the body, overly identifying with the body, that is an area where the ego will expand into. So I think that's one thing. It's not being obsessive about it. Yeah. I think Jeff Thompson, again, we speak about him a lot. He talks about looking in the mirror, doesn't he? And being dead honest with yourself and
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
where am I out of alignment? Where do I need to work? It doesn't mean that you need to be obsessive about it. So I think the middle way, as you basically alluded to, is the key to remaining balanced through pretty much any endeavor, because the ego can expand into meditation. If you
It can.
start thinking that you're better than others, or that you're some sort of, you're advanced, and the ego easily grows into meditation if you're not careful. And it
Yes.
can do that with any area of life. So humility, balance, these types of ways of being, I think, are
Humility is my virtue
essential.
of the day today.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm surprised. Well, I'm sure you could tell. No, it is. Yeah, last couple of weeks, I've been picking a virtue for the day and really focusing on it and trying to and see it. And it's a great way of keeping it in your mind
Mm.
and and also seeing yourself in that mirror that
Yeah.
Jeff talks about when you're focusing on a particular virtue during the day, whether it's courage or kindness or whatever virtue you're picking.
Mm.
It's a good way to see it, and yeah, so humility is the virtue of the day.
Nice. Practicing virtues is underrated. Underrated.
Yeah, it is.
I think with the exercise thing, the type of exercise, and this is different for each person, but the type of exercise makes a huge difference. For me personally, there's certain exercises that if I start doing them, I notice where the ego wants to fill in, fill in the
Yeah,
gap.
yeah, yeah.
So, for example, if I'm on the bag, we used to
It's
do
always a bag.
boxing, martial arts, and things like that. If on a punch bag, the ego loves that.
Oh, it does.
The ego loves that.
Yeah,
If I'm in if I'm in a running situation where it's getting a little bit more competitive, the ego loves that as well. It wants to be at the front. It wants to push it.
yeah.
And these are areas
How do
that
you deal?
I, pers-
How do you
I
deal
don't
with
run anymore. I think the way I deal with it is I don't deal with it. And the ego, the divine gives me a nice niggle, which means that I can't run for a little while. And I start to see these areas because I've
like
not been able
Kirk
to run for
Palmer to
such a
slow
long
you down a
time.
bit? Now go out running, Ben.
Get to the front now, Ben.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, I've not been able to race for years and years.
Oh,
Now I'm at the point where I don't want to, but
yeah.
when I was younger, I got to the point where I couldn't race because
It's
I
really
had little
hard
niggles.
when you're good at something and you enjoy doing it and the ego enjoys doing it. It's very hard when you have to give it up, isn't it? That's another
Hmm.
test in a different way because your perception of yourself is that almost like the way other people see you is that Pete or Ben is good at that. And
Yeah.
when you can't do that anymore, it strips that away. And it's a brilliant thing to strip away this entity that is Pete and now he can't do that. Is that still Pete? Of course it is, but it's still the person. It's the thing
Mm.
behind Pete. If just for a while he was good at that,
Yeah.
but that isn't Pete. And there's
It's
something
quite
else.
funny because with progressing, for me personally, when I was progressing with triathlon, and I used to be at that time, I was working as a heating engineer. So a lot of the time I was driving around, I would spend a vast amount of time picturing myself winning races, running, doing the thing that I wanted to get better at, which for that particular art helped because
Yes.
I was blueprint in my mind for success, and it definitely helped me move forward quicker than I think I would have without doing that. But as you said, it also builds up this identity, this image, and this idea of who you are.
Ben's the
So it was a
triathlete.
double-edged sword.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It is, and I mean, that's the beauty of being in the center, though, isn't it? You are building up your strength in physically and your mental strength and your capacity to discipline yourself and grow. They're all attributes that you can take into other areas, and you have done. But you also, when you do take them into other areas, you have to let something go. But that something wasn't really something anyway. It's an interesting dilemma that
So now,
you have to go through. Have we got
do you
any?
want to grow in the world, or do you want to grow
Well, yeah,
spiritually?
and you were forcing yourself in a way. You were almost being meditative in that you were saying, right, I'm driving around, so because I want to get here, I'm going to do this, which is picturing this. So now your goal is, reunion with the divine, enlightenment. So you're driving around now. You're mantring. I want to get to here, so I do this. So you're using the same basic techniques, but the
Same
focus,
principles.
the target is different.
Yeah.
But you learn the benefits of doing that through triathlon.
But Sai Baba says that the mind is like a key. You can either turn it into the world and you become attached, or you turn it towards the divine and you find liberation. He uses some sort of phrase like that. And it's when you actually throw
Like
yourself
that.
into a worldly pursuit or a spiritual pursuit, you notice
Yeah.
you notice the feeling of that.
Yeah, I like that.
It's really
Have we got time for one more question? Oh, sorry. Carry on. I've interrupted you.
no. I think we've covered some of the good ones there, so I think
Mhm.
we can wrap up there. I
Okay.
was going to say to finish off, and I believe Dare said this to you in one of the teachings or notes. It was something along the lines of a true greatness is achieved by not striving, by not appearing to, or not striving to appear great.
Yes. I think that's in the book.
True, true greatness is achieved by not appearing or not striving to appear great. And I think that's such a beautiful
Well, he always
quote.
uses that phrase. I'm not going to be able to remember it now, and I should know this phrase because it's the motto of Zen Aikido. It's gone out of my head. It's a phrase, not
I
Greek.
know that one.
It's a Latin phrase. Esse quam videre, and it means to be rather than to seem. And I really love that. I love that
Be
phrase.
rather than to seem.
Yeah. Apparently, it's the national phrase of, I think it's North Carolina or somebody or somewhere. It's
Mm,
their state motto. But I love that, to be rather than
yeah.
just do it. Don't pretend. Just do it.
Don't focus on how you look or appear.
Yeah.
Just be.
Don't try and look like it. Just do it. Be it. You know,
Mm,
become it by doing.
great one to finish on.
Yeah. Good one. Lovely to
Alrighty.
spend some time with you as always. And
Yeah.
thanks
Lovely
everybody who
to chat
watches
with
it.
you. Thanks so much, all.
I know I wanted to ask you a question. You can keep this in or take it out, but people, a lot of people always ask about subscriptions to your channel and things like that. What are the benefits to people who subscribe to your channel?
My school
No, just the YouTube videos.
to subscribe to the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
It means that it's a signal to YouTube, really, that it's a channel that is valuable. And so as you grow, as your channel grows, it's not a massive thing now. It's less important now than it was like 10 years ago. But
Right.
it's a signal to YouTube that people find your videos valuable, and so they're more likely to show them to more
Okay.
people each time. If you've got a bigger channel with more subscribers, YouTube will show your video initially to more people.
Nice.
So it's a signal, really, and people that are anyone that's interested in this type of topic and supporting this sort of work
Come
is
across.
valuable to me
Yeah.
and anyone that might see the videos as well, for people to subscribe to the channel for that reason mainly.
Great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right.
All right. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for your